Hello and welcome to the National Inventor Club. My name is Brian Freed and we are in August 2024. I know the hot topic is, oh my goodness, where did the summer go? But you know what? It's still hot here in National Inventor Club, so let's get started. I love the countdown. Thank you, Andy, and the Inventor Smart Community team and the National Inventor Club team for making this happen and possible. We have a great lineup of guests tonight. And I just like to say thank you to all the community members in the Inventor Smart Community app. We are streaming live in the app where you can download on YouTube. Where you can download in the Apple App Store and also in Google Play. We are live streaming in the app, YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram. I think there's a bunch of places that we're live streaming. So for wherever you are joining us, thank you. And let's get started. So let's start off with Molly. Where's Molly? There she is.
Hi,
Molly
everyone.
Kuchowski. She is from the Rocky Mountain office of the US Patent and Trademark Office, and Rocky Mountain means Colorado, and she's the regional director. So there's an innovation outreach office there, and inventors are welcome. Molly, thank you for joining us. If you could tell us a little bit about yourself and what we can expect when we get to contact somebody at the Rocky Mountain office, and also if you have a tip for the inventor community listening.
Always, Brian. Thank you so much. Again, I'm Molly. I'm the regional director of the Rocky Mountain office. Part of our job is to demystify the intellectual property system. So we will talk to anybody about IP. I always like to say my audience is K through Gray. And as my child will tell you that I sound like the Peanuts teacher going wah, wah, wah all the time about intellectual property, but we'd love to hear from you. So that you know my background, I was an intellectual property attorney. I did litigation. I prosecuted for 3 different Fortune 200 companies before I joined the office. So I've seen it all. I've done it all. I like to tell people I've ridden in every intellectual property rodeo that there is. For some, I have the sash. For some, I got the belt buckle. And for others, I was bucked off of that bull in 3 seconds or less. So definitely call us. I think the biggest mistake that entrepreneurs and independent inventors and even small businesses starting out is that they're hesitant to ask for help. All of the resources that my office provide is already paid for. So you will pay nothing to come talk to us about intellectual property and learn about it. So I hope you will. Absolutely give us a call. You can reach us at www.uspto.gov/Denver. You can call my office at 303-297-4600. Or, you know what, if you just type into Google Molly Patent Denver, you'll find my resume and my bio and my contact information. So don't hesitate to reach out.
Thank you so much. Molly and the US Patent and Trademark Office have regional offices all around the country. And Molly is in Colorado. She has a staff there that you can come in and talk to the counselors or your colleagues there. Are they what type of people are they? They work for the US Patent and Trademark Office.
All of them. Most of them are former patent examiners, actually. So if you talk to any of my outreach detailees, my assistant regional director, I was never a patent examiner, and I was actually teasing one of the TC directors this afternoon that they don't let me do that. So I'm hoping that maybe that'll happen sometime soon. But right, I saw intellectual property from the other side. So between all of us that work at the outreach office, we will definitely get you taken care of.
Thank you so much, Molly. We appreciate having you join us, and we will speak to you very soon. Thank you. All right, let's have Charlene Walters. Always a wealth of information from Charlene. She is the author of Launch Your Inner Entrepreneur, and she comes on frequently on National Inventor Club to provide tips and advice for the aspiring, budding, maybe the on the journey somewhere along the way, even further along. And these tips are amazing. So if you could share one with us this evening, that would be great.
Thanks so much, Brian. Happy to be with this awesome inventor crowd. Today, I'm going to talk a little bit about getting yourself out of a rut, because I know what all of you are going through with, filing for a patent, with actually bringing your product, your invention to life. So it can be a very lonely and challenging road. And there's a lot of things you can do to help pull yourself up if you feel like, oh boy, I'm struggling right now, things are not going like I wanted, just to keep yourself motivated to continue along. So the first thing you can do is to find support. You know who those people are, who are your biggest cheerleaders, your biggest supporters out there. Go and have a conversation with them and let them boost your ego for a little bit to get you back into the spirit. You can also sort of analyze your business, analyze your products, see what's happening, what you're sort of struggling with or what's causing issues, and try to brainstorm about ways to come out of that. Something else you can do is to always go out there and take a course. Maybe there's an area you're deficient in, whether it's in marketing, sales, whether it's really in strategy, whatever it is, there's a course for it. The more you go out there and kind of add to your skills, the better off you'll be. And you can give yourself an added boost. Sometimes we need to hire a consultant if we're working on something that we're not used to, or that's different to us, or it's in a new field, a new area that can really pull us out. Sometimes it's as simple as just taking a break, going on vacation for a few days, just getting away from it, because we can become overly absorbed in our inventions, right? And we can kind of not even come up for air. So that really helps sometimes. And then sometimes it just helps to kind of jot down your feelings and brainstorm about it and think about ways that you can turn things around. All of these things seem like little things, but together they can really help bring you and pull you out of whatever rut you're in and put you back on the path to bringing your invention to life. That's what I've got for you tonight.
Thank you so much, Charlene. Do you have a copy of your book that we can look at?
Yeah.
Let me see that.
Yes, in fact, I do. Just happen to have a few right here.
Great.
My book is called Launch Your Inner Entrepreneur, and I'm mirrored right now, so it's backwards, but it's on entrepreneurial mindset, and you can get it on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, anywhere like that. It gives some advice and a plan sort of for putting your ideas together and improving your mindset to move forward in business.
Thank you so much, Charlene. We appreciate you joining us, and
I appreciate you too.
We will hope to see you again very soon with some more tips and advice.
Good luck, everyone.
Thank you. All right, let's have Justin. Here he is. Justin Chen, he is the co-founder of PickFu and a sponsor of National Inventor Club and the Inventor Smart Community app. Justin, thank you for joining us. I know that you have some interesting tips and advice for our community members. It is very interesting when we come up with an idea and we ask our best friends and family what they think of our idea, maybe what they think of our logo. And look, if they say that it's not that great, you might never talk to them again. So you have a platform to kind of ease that more of a general audience type of response. So maybe you could just tell us a little bit about PickFu and the tip that you have for us today.
Sure. Thanks, Brian. Happy to be here. Yeah, so that's exactly the situation my co-founder and I found ourselves when we invented PickFu years ago. Was that we were trying to get feedback from our friends and family about a website that we were building, and the feedback wasn't great. They weren't really our target audience, And so that's where PickFu came from. We wanted our own digital focus group that we could tap into. So in a nutshell, PickFu is a consumer research platform that lets you as an inventor instantly get crowdsourced feedback on your product ideas, designs, logos, or marketing creatives, all within a matter of minutes. We've got a panel of millions of US consumers who will tell you what they like or dislike about your product design or help you choose which logo is better. It all starts at $1 per response. So 15 responses, $15, very affordable for any inventor out there. So the tip I have this month is to test your product descriptions to ensure that they're clear, compelling, and effective. Even if you do have a really great product, if you have unclear or unappealing descriptions, that can really significantly impact your sales. So use PickFu, test different versions of the product descriptions or your marketing copy, see which one resonates with potential customers. And here's quickly how you do it. Write 2 to 3 different variations of your descriptions or sales copy, vary it in the length or the tone, create a PickFu poll asking respondents which description makes them most likely to purchase the product. And within 30 minutes or so, you'll have feedback, and you could read through the feedback to understand which elements of your descriptions are most effective and go with a winning version. This approach can help you craft descriptions that are not only more informative, but also persuade your potential customers and potentially boosting your sales. And we do have a promo for the community. It's coupon code INVENTOR, single word INVENTOR, for 50% off your first poll. So taking that $15 poll down to $7.50 for your first time. So, there's very little reason not to try it out.
Thank you so much, Justin. And I know that many people are watching and listening in the audience going, well, how do I know that I'm protected?
Yeah. So all of our respondents are required to agree to a non-disclosure before seeing even the question or responding to it. They don't see the answers or any other responses. And so that's how we can do our best to protect your intellectual property. We have a lot of large corporations that are using it for things that are pre-launch, things that are under development. And so, we take that security very seriously.
Excellent. Justin, thank you very much. We appreciate having you give some tips and advice and a platform that we can actually get some real advice. I know that many of the members, including myself, have used your platform, and your audience, whoever is in that kind of survey, is not shy. They tell you like it is. So it can help you to make a better decision. So thank you so much, Justin.
Thanks, Brian.
Thanks. See you soon. All right, let's have John Rizvi. He is the patent professor. And John, good to see you. I know that you have some tips and advice for us. We appreciate you being a sponsor of National Inventor Club and the Inventor Smart Community. Thank you for all your support. We appreciate it. And let's hear what you got tonight.
Yeah, thank you, Brian. Always a pleasure to be here. One of the things that I've been practicing for 25 years, and in the early days, design patents were really almost like the stepchild of patenting. They were looked down upon, and a lot of times utility patents were seen as superior. And I think so that view, in terms of if you have something that has a function, I agree with that. Utility patent definitely should be something that should be filed for a functional idea, something that has use that does something. However, I want to tell inventors how important it is to also protect the look with a design patent, because don't overlook a design patent as an additional way of protecting what you have, because of the way a lot of sales are being done now through online platforms like either eBay or Amazon. Design patents are granted a lot faster. And if you have an infringing product, a lot of times they're not just going to take the function, but they're just going to outright copy your exact look of your idea. And design patents are invaluable. Without spending a cent on legal fees for litigation, you simply upload a copy. And Amazon, for example, has administrative procedures. So does eBay. And you may be able to take down infringers without spending any additional money. So that's a huge benefit. Plus, unfortunately, the lack of knowledge about patenting, a lot of people, even attorneys that are not patent attorneys, even sometimes in-house, they believe that if a design patent is granted, a utility patent is going to be a lot more likely. So you get that added boost when in reality, they're completely different. Like I know you've often had patent examiners on here. There's no correlation between a design patent being granted and a utility patent. One doesn't predict the other. One being granted doesn't mean the other could be granted. One being denied doesn't mean the other is going to be denied. But very few people know this, and you get a huge boost by getting one patent granted early, and that most likely is going to be the design. So that's my tip for today, Brian.
Thank you so much, John. We appreciate your tips and advice monthly on National Inventor Club here. And thank you again for your support. We appreciate it. And we'll see you again soon.
Perfect.
Thank you. All right, let's have Pierre Lespinas. He is from the Small Business Development Center, a division of the Small Business Administration. He's a business advisor in one of the campuses here in New York, Farmingdale State College. There are SBDC offices all around the country. Pierre is here tonight with us to share some tips and advice. Pierre, good to see you.
Good to see you. Can you hear me? Yes.
Absolutely.
All right. Okay. Good evening. My tip for tonight is modeling. I am sure most of you are familiar with the advice and the tip of having to do a business plan when you are ready to commercialize your invention. But very few people understand the concept of modeling. If you don't have a model, you technically don't have anything to plan. So the modeling is just like the architecture of your business. So you need an architect. You need to think about it. Will I want to sell it wholesale? Will it be a retail? Do I want to be a manufacturer? Do I want to sell the license to someone? So all of that is part of you crafting this architecture for your business, how you're going to exploit your business. And at the SBDC, we have advisors who are totally qualified to walk you through the process, take you through the pros and cons of different models. And once you have a model, then we start planning it. We start adding core to it, marketing concept, operation strategy, and the whole the grand finale of your financial projections. If you're going to talk to a bank about lending you money to start this business, this commercial business that you want to start, or you're looking for an investor, financial projections are critical. And we are very good at that, and we can certainly help any one of you to do it.
And how much does it cost, Pierre?
It is the fantastic price of $0.
Unbelievable. So we can find you can find a small business development center somewhere in your area. You can go on americassbdc.com or .org. America's SBDC.
Yes, .org. Yes.
And you'll find it. And you can find a local office, most likely on a campus somewhere. Business plans, advice, support from local resources for free. Pierre, you and Erica and Maria, thank you all for your support from the Farmingdale State College Small Business Development Center, a division. Yeah, thank you so much.
You're welcome. Always a pleasure.
Great. See you soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye. All right, let's have Grace Schaefer. She is from Fiverr Pro. I know that there's people out there that have actively been using Fiverr, and we are grateful to have Grace from Fiverr Pro. We are expanding our partnership here between the Inventor Smart Community app, National Inventor Club, and Fiverr Pro. It's a great resource, and Grace is very active with entrepreneurs and startups, and she has some advice for us. Grace, thank you for joining us, and please share what you got.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Brian, for that intro. Hello, everybody. As Brian said, my name is Grace, and I'm a business success manager with Fiverr Pro. And my advice is a pretty broad one, but it is to outsource. As Brian said, I work very closely with entrepreneurs and inventors to achieve their goals more efficiently. And because of this, I'm often a big part of that journey from concept to market. And I see how challenging it can be, whether it's refining a prototype, creating an online presence, preparing a pitch deck for investors, all of those tasks. And what many of the successful entrepreneurs I work with have found helpful is partnering with freelancers to fill those skill gaps. Because in a lot of cases, every task will not be within your wheelhouse. And that is where outsourcing and specifically platforms like Fiverr Pro step in to help. So Fiverr Pro is a marketplace that really connects brands, businesses, and entrepreneurs with top vetted freelancers. These are professionals in their field who will not only bring your idea to the next level, but really fill that gap. For example, we all know that social media is a necessary beast for any business. So instead of taking on that task of being your own marketing manager, where you're in charge of your content, your analytics, and branding, you go to Fiverr Pro and you hire on that manager. These freelancers are partners who can work on a weekly basis or a project basis to really take any task, no matter how big or how small, off of your back. And not only does outsourcing like this ensure professionalism and quality, but what it does best is it saves you time to focus on what matters the most, which is perfecting your business and your product. So my tip is to outsource.
Thank you so much.
Of
Grace,
course.
we have an amazing setup, a landing page that I work together with you and your colleagues that have things that inventors might need to outsource, like engineers and prototyping, 3D animation, marketing initiatives, many different types of things to be able to get us to the next level. And Fiverr Pro is a division of Fiverr that is more vetted. They are more established. I guess different types of people that are on there as the freelancers, right? They have to go through some vigorous.
100%.
Good.
Yes, these are the professionals in their field. They have to go through a vetting process. They have to apply to be in it. These are people who have years and years of experience and have really good knowledge and quality to work with. And these are the people who work with big businesses or smaller businesses and everybody in between. So they're the people that you really want to get their advice and, their help from.
Amazing. And it's really easy. So in the Inventor Smart Community app, we have in the sponsor section, we have Fiverr Pro in there. And you can use that link for a discount. Plus also take a look at all the handpicked services that we've come up with that could be useful to you. So hopefully it helps. And you can find
100%.
people from all over the world. If it's something that is proprietary, then you have them sign a non-disclosure agreement. But I know that whoever's vetted on there does go through that process. So please do your due diligence, select appropriately and accordingly, and hopefully you can find some great talent on there.
Yes, and I want to add one thing that you just mentioned. You can also use people on Fiverr, the workers of Fiverr, to help you find these freelancers. That's something that I do. That's something that support does. If you're not sure where to start, if you're looking at all these tasks and you're like, where do I go? Reach out to us. We will help you find those freelancers to best help you guys.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So go to the Inventor Smart Community app, download it on the Google Play or Apple App Store. Go into the sponsors section and you can see Fiverr Pro in there. And Grace, I think there's a way for us to also get in touch with you. Perhaps Andy, our support team, can put some information in there or the link to Fiverr, and we can connect up with you and your team.
Yes, 100% we'll do so.
Thank you so much. Grace, thank you. Tell Rona and all the team, thank you so much. We appreciate having you.
Thank you. Have a great rest of your night.
You too. All right. Let's have Ednethia Thomas. She is representing SCORE Mentors tonight. We have Bridget on, we have Candace, and they weren't able to make it. I know they have an event going on. So Ednethia is on to support and talk about SCORE Mentors. If you have a tip and advice for us, that would be great.
Awesome. Thank you, Brian, for having us. My name is Anithia Thomas, like he said, and SCORE Mentors, we offer free mentorship to small business owners and entrepreneurs, helping them to get the startup process going or to scale if they've been in business for a while. One thing that I would say to the inventors is to make sure that you're taking time to rest. Make sure that you are taking time to recalibrate, take a walk, make sure that you are keeping your ideas fresh by keeping yourself hydrated, keeping yourself energized. And a lot of times we forget that that's an important part of entrepreneurship and small business ownership is resting and sleep, getting enough sleep, getting adequate rest. So I would just, highly recommend that make that a part of your daily and weekly routine. So, for example, what I do is on Sundays, I do, the bare minimum. I take a walk. I might enjoy a movie with my son. I sleep. And just allow myself to really catch up on all the rest that I may not have gotten throughout the week. And then during the week, I make sure I start my day with some quiet time. What do I have planned for the day? What exactly is on my agenda for that day? I make sure that my mind is very clear, and even in that space in the mornings, taking a walk, making sure that you are just centering yourself so that you're starting your day with a nice, fresh, rejuvenated mindset instead of a tired, dragging in the day before mentality, which, for inventors and creatives, it's hard to get into that space and do the things that you need to do productively if you're tired. So that's the one tip and the one point of advice that that's probably unpopular but extremely necessary for us to remember.
Oh, I just woke up. Maybe I'll do that. I'm not sure when, but eventually I'll get to it. And I know our audience is probably very active. And look, we can hear all this information and all this advice, but one of the most important things is to take care of yourself. So maybe I'll do that one day. But for now, the show must go on. Thank you so much, Anithia. So I see you're in the SCORE Charlotte area. So we can go on to score.org and we can sign up and find a SCORE mentor for free, another division of the Small Business Administration. Look at all this support and resources that are out there for you. You have to take advantage of them. So Anithia, thank you for doing what you do, you and your team, your volunteers. We appreciate it. And please tell Candace and Bridget we say hello.
Sure will. Take care.
Thank you. You too. All right. Let's have Dan Demetrio. He is one of the newest members and subscribers of the Inventor Smart Community app. Dan, welcome. Thank you. And tell us who you are, where you're from, and why you joined the community.
Thank you for having me. I'm Dan Demetriou, a retired engineer formerly known as the engineering coordinator at San Antonio College in Texas, in San Antonio, Texas. I am a 50% successful inventor and a 50% failure inventor. And the reason why I say that, I have about 16 patents and many other improvements. But in my career, the inventions and the patents that I had for a company that I worked for were very successful. And I won an $85 million patent infringement lawsuit, not me, a company, but on my patent. And on the other hand, I am an inventor of games. I love inventing games since I was a kid. I have about 22 invention games that are all prototyped and ready to go. But there is where the failure is. I couldn't find anybody to make them. So I am 50% successful and 50% a failure. So I'm looking to see how I can get my games to the market.
Dan, Thank you so much. I think the failure is more of lessons learned. Maybe there's still a shot. I know that you're very active in the Inventor Smart Community app, so we look forward to continuing our conversation, not only in the Inventor Smart Community app, but also after this meeting. If you see the little banner going across,
Yes.
we're going to be having an after meeting networking. So we'll be able to meet and you'll be able to do kind of the meet
Absolutely.
and greet with everybody. But we appreciate your story,
Yes.
and we will see you again
Thank
very
you.
soon. Thank you,
Thank
Dan.
you. Thank you.
Thanks. All right, let's have Rob and Ella. They are also new members of the Inventor Smart Community app. Thank you for joining us. If you could tell us a little bit about yourself. I think we just need to do the unmute. See if we can get that going there. There you
we
go.
Okay. I'm Rob Streeper, and this is my wife and business partner, Elzbieta Izbika.
Also known as Ella.
Yes.
I'm a chemist by training, a drug developer by choice and love. First, I was doing drug development for the others in the clinical settings, providing useful information for some new drugs that nobody knew how they worked. And now, for the past decade plus, we have been developing our new platform, and Rob will tell you more. This is really the most fascinating story of my life.
Yeah, like Demetrio, we're also in San Antonio, Texas, so we're neighbors. I didn't know that. But anyway, at New Frontier Labs, we've discovered a new class of drugs. Not a new drug, but a completely new class of drugs. And we call this class of drugs membrane-acting immunomodulators. We've found that those drugs are good for treating diabetes, for instance. They're good for treating skin diseases. We can treat brown recluse spider bite and other things. And the reason that we're here is to make contacts, learn from the other members, and hopefully be able to secure the funding that we need to bring these products to market.
For us, science is easy. Bringing the product to the market is a black magic. That's why it's a fantastic platform for us to learn from the others.
Great. Well, you both and Dan are in the Inventor Smart Community app, so we can continue our conversations in there. It's our own social media. We network, we collaborate. There's different groups in there. Andy's done a super job. We've added some new groups in the app. So please join us if you haven't joined already, and you can meet Ella and Rob and Dan and the 1,200 plus other inventors that are in there. So thank you so much. We'll see you in the app.
Okay.
Thank you. All right. I think we are all set now. We have Pete Mehravari, right? Mehravari. He and I met last year at the US Patent and Trademark Office when he had a role directly in the US Patent and Trademark Office, and we had Inventor Day. So we had a bunch of inventors, and he was one of the speakers, and he mesmerized our audience and the inventors that came, especially the picture of him with his SWAT team going into some warehouse that was copyright infringing on a USA company. And everybody keeps talking about that. And Pete and I kept in touch. I know now he's in a different role, and he is the Director of Policy and Legal Affairs for the International IP Alliance, and he'll explain what that is. But Pete, thank you so much. I'm glad we kept in touch, and now you are our main guest speaker tonight on National Inventor Club with some great information. So if you could just start off by introducing yourself, and we'll get the slide up, and we have some great information for everybody. And then afterwards, we'll go into the after meeting networking, and hopefully some of our intro speakers will join us in there and we can continue the conversation. But nice to meet you again, Pete. And if you can introduce yourself to the audience.
Absolutely, Brian. Well, one, I mean, thanks for having me. It's great to be on this program, and I know how much you support inventors all across the U.S. So it's great to be here tonight. So I'm going to do a quick intro on myself, and then I'm going to kind of tell some stories about some of my work in the field, working with inventors and entrepreneurs to protect their competitive advantages. So again, my name is Pete. I started working on IP issues about 20 years ago. I was a electrical engineer who didn't like to do math, but I love technology. I love the learning about it, and I love the passion of inventors. And so what I did was I became a patent attorney and worked in the private sector for a number of years with startups, entrepreneurs, taking their inventions and protecting them with patents. But I wanted to have a bigger impact. And so I joined the US government, the US Patent Trademark Office. I was a patent examiner for a few years, but then joined our policy office where I could help shape both US domestic and also foreign intellectual property rights laws and enforcement to make sure that when a US company took their inventions overseas, that they could also be protected. As part of that role, one of my jobs was I actually moved overseas and was the US government's lead foreign diplomat on intellectual property issues for the Middle East, North Africa. So for 5 years, I lived in Kuwait and in the United Arab Emirates. And in that time, helped about 2,000 different US companies on a wide range of intellectual property protection matters. So small companies, large companies, biotech, fintech, creative industries, everything. And so I got to see the whole gamut of what companies were dealing with when it came to creating products, marketing products, and then protecting them. And so from there, then I went back to the USPTO, was the director of our Global IP Academy. And then just about 3 months ago, I moved back to the private sector, where I get to represent the US creative industry on intellectual property issues overseas. So like the Motion Picture Association, Recording Industry Association of America, film, books, TV, video games. My job now is to advocate for them. So it's been an exciting 20-year intellectual property journey. But I'm really excited to kind of get back to that initial part that drove me into IP, which is working with startups, working with inventors. And so our goal today is that by the end of our discussion, I want you to be able to take a look at your company, your invention, and know how to protect it. Again, we aren't going to get into the legal definitions. We aren't going to get into any sort of technical issues. We're going to keep it at a very business level and really figure out what is the most important competitive advantage of your either invention or your company. And I'm going to start with a story. So in my second year being based overseas, part of my job was that any US company that wanted to come to the Middle East, North Africa, the US government encouraged them to come talk to me. Because part of my job was to tell US companies, what's the landscape in the Middle East like? How do you get a patent? How do you get a trademark? And so every week I'd probably talk to 2 or 3 companies that want to grow their business, expand overseas. And I'd normally ask the question, well, tell me what type of intellectual property you had. Again, I'm an intellectual property nerd. That's the wording I was using. And they would say, Pete, well, we have a patent that protects our invention. We have a trademark that protects our brand. We have creative content protected by copyright. And I say, great, here's how you protect it overseas. So I get one company that comes to me. And I could clearly see that initially that they were a bit annoyed that they had to talk to me. They're like, Pete, we've been in business 40 years. We know what we're doing. I was like, great, but this is a new region for you. Let me talk about your intellectual property. So I say, well, do you have any IP? Like, and they're like, no, we have no intellectual property. I'm like, that can't be right. So I was like, tell me about your product. So they're like, well, we make this engine that goes inside elevators. And this engine has been around for about 40 years. And it's the top of the line engine, and all the major buildings use it as one of their primary engines within the elevator systems. I was like, great. Well, I was like, oh, tell me about the technology. Is it a new technology? Because it's a new technology, then you can get a patent on it. Like, Pete, it's been the same invention for 40 years. And as we know, a patent is only good for 20 years from the date of filing of the application. So like, no, we have no patent rights, none in the US and none overseas. It's not a new technology. It's like, okay. Well, what about your brand name? They're like, look, Pete, like our engine goes inside elevators. Like the people who build elevators, they all know us. And consumers aren't going around the shops looking at our brands, looking to buy an elevator engine. Like this is all internal systems. really brand recognition is not an issue for us. It's like, all right. It's like, do you have any like computer code? I mean, do we get copyright on that? But like, no. All right. So then I pause a little bit. I go back and say, look, you've been in business for 40 years. Why? Like, why have you been in business and other people like aren't competing against you? Like they haven't figured out how to make your invention. I was like, oh, Pete, well, the reason our engine is the best is because when we manufacture it at X degrees Fahrenheit, at X percentage of humidity, and we have to put it together within 3 hours. It wasn't 3 hours, but, and like, because we do that, our engine is the highest quality engine and lasts for 10 years longer than any competition. So I asked the question, I was like, well, if someone else figures out that temperature, that humidity, and that time, can they create the same thing that you're making? And like, oh yeah, absolutely. And I was like, well, can they make it cheaper? Like, oh, absolutely. So I was asked, like, so you're saying that if you lose that trade secret, your company's done. And they kind of pause on the screen. And like, yeah. And it's like, you're coming overseas to the Middle East and you want to create a manufacturing plant for your engines. It's like, let me tell you about the trade secret protections in the Middle East. It's not great. The judges aren't doing a great job enforcing rights. The damages aren't very good. Some countries don't even have trade secret laws. And you are about to bring your most valuable competitive advantage to a market where you weren't prepared to protect what would keep your business alive. And they had about 45 employees. And they were very frank, look, if we lost this competitive advantage, this engine could be manufactured in China within a few months, shipped over, and be sold for about half the cost. And our business would be done. So after that kind of intense meeting, they went back, talked to their IP attorneys, were able to figure out ways to protect their trade secret from being stolen. But I learned a valuable lesson. It was I had to stop talking about intellectual property, and I had to start talking about competitive advantage. What is your competitive advantage? And let's start from there and then move to IP. So for today's discussion, we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about taking your competitive advantage, protecting it, and commercializing it.
Pete, I just want to mention that this is so important for us. There's so many different ways that we can look at what we come up with and to protect it. And Pete's kind of seen it all. And there's some valuable information in these slides. Some of it may not necessarily pertain to you at this moment, but a later slide might. So pay attention and see if you can get something out of it. That's why we have Pete on. He's an amazing guest with some great information to share with us. So sit back and let's hear what Pete has to say.
Thanks, Brian. And just a preview, there's only 7 substantive slides, so it's nothing too crazy. And our goal is really just to give you the tools after today's talk to go back, relook at your invention, your business concept, and we'll give you 3 easy steps to do to figure out how to identify, prioritize, and protect your competitive advantage. So I call it strategic intellectual property capture. And this is the process, again, of looking at your business, looking at your invention, asking, why is this competitive? Why is someone going to go and buy your product over someone else's? And that's what we want to protect. So 3 steps: identify, prioritize, protect. Step 1. This is probably one of the most important steps, because oftentimes I'll talk to a business or a company and they'll say, look, Pete, we have a patent, and patents are the most important type of intellectual property. And again, as a former patent nerd back in the day, I'm at that point, I agreed. But then as I saw other businesses and companies, oftentimes the competitive advantage wasn't actually the most important one, was the patent, but it was a number of things. And we'll talk about how to prioritize that on step 2. But step 1 is so important because you can't prioritize and protect what you don't know. So step 1, you have to identify every single piece of intellectual property or competitive advantage that your company has. Again, it could be your brand or logo. It could be that new invention. It could be a design or content that you're using on your app. Anything that you're creating, anything you're investing in that makes you more competitive against someone else, list it out. Just make a list.
So you're talking about patents, trademarks, copyrights, trade secrets, plant patents, whatever, design patents, whatever it is.
Everything, Brian.
See what you can kind of compile to have that well-rounded protection.
Absolutely. I mean, and it even goes beyond that. I mean, if you're a business that is selling a product, I mean, the people that you're selling it to, your clients, that list by itself is a competitive advantage. Because let's say that you have a list of 1,000 sort of customers, and that you know these customers need your product every 2 years. Well, knowing that knowledge, you can go out there and find those customers, sell it to them very quickly. If you lose that customer list to a competitor, that competitor can quickly come to your market and figure out ways to compete against you. So it's not just a new invention. It's not just the brand, not just the quality of your product, but anything that if you lost it, a competitor could come up and take away part of your business. That's a competitive advantage, and that needs to be protected. So there are really two types of these types of competitive advantages when it comes to protecting with intellectual property. There's the type of intellectual property that you would register to get protection. So for invention, you want to get a patent, and so you register with the US Patent Trademark Office, file an application, get a patent to protect that invention. With your brand, you'd go and try to register for a trademark. If it's creative content, you'd want to get a copyright registration, but you want to enforce your rights. But as both Brian and I mentioned, there's some things that you can't register, like a trade secret. There's no trade secret registration. There's a legal process to protect it. And in some cases, even like, what's your supply chains? What's the way that you hire the best people? These are things that make you competitive. Find ways to protect that information from getting out. So again, step one, identify. Again, you can't prioritize or protect what you don't know. Again, it could be as simple as a instruction manual for your product. And I'll tell you a story at the end of today's why that is actually important.
Pete, there might be a couple questions. I know, Christopher, you might have a question. We're going to have Pete go through. Let's see how much time we have. I think, Pete, also, you'll join us for a few minutes in the after meeting.
Absolutely.
Awesome. So we'll be able to have some Q&A in there where you can actually speak to him directly. But let's move along through the slides, and we'll see if we have time for some Q&A. And if not, we'll do it in the after meeting.
Fantastic. And then the last part of the slide, very important link there is the IP identifier at the USPTO.gov website. This is a great way for you to go through some questions and figure out what types of intellectual property competitive advantage you have. Great resource. They just updated it recently. Really good tool. And also you can translate into different languages as well. It's a great way to figure out what are all your products.
Great. That IP identifier is gold. I know that if you didn't take it down, you could take it down now. You can watch this recording afterwards, but definitely take advantage of the USPTO's IP identifier tool. It's really helpful. That was the link was on the USPTO site, right?
It does. Yep.
Yeah. Great.
All right. So step one, identify. Step two, prioritize. Again, most companies, startups, entrepreneurs don't have unlimited resources or money, so you can't just go out and protect every single piece of intellectual property, every competitive advantage you have. So part of it is figuring out what is that competitive advantage that if you lost, your company is done. Again, the example I gave with the elevator engine, if they lost that competitive advantage, business is done. It's over. And so figure out what you can lose, what you can't lose. What's the cost to get that competitive advantage back? And is it even possible to get it back? So once you again have that list, just simply prioritize which are the most important ones. And I'll give this sort of example of how do you prioritize? If you don't do it correctly, what happens? So I like to look at it like you're going out and picking fruit. In this case, let's use an apple tree. You look at the apple tree, each of the apples, that's a competitive advantage, and you want to protect as many pieces of competitive advantage as you can. Well, when you pick apples, you want to pick the ripe ones and ones that you can reach easily. Because in some cases, an apple might not be ripe, and you keep pulling it, and you pull it, And finally, you pull it off the tree and all the apples shake and all the ripe ones fall off to the ground. So maybe you want to make sure you're only picking the ripe pieces of competitive advantage, ones that you can actually protect, actually secure. Maybe there's something that is just so hard to protect. So there's that apple that's on the top of the tree. It's beautiful, but in order to get to it, you're climbing past all the other apples and you're knocking them all onto the floor. What's the value of you going after that one very difficult competitive advantage worth losing all the rest? And I'll give you another example very quickly about the company Apple. Again, using the same type of theme here. Let's say Apple goes out and they invent a new camera for their new smartphone. And again, it's a camera, so it's invention, so you want to get a patent on it. What happens if Apple forgets to get a patent on that smartphone camera? Well, what's the cost of Apple going to have to recoup to get a new, better camera to beat out its competitors? Maybe it takes a couple years, maybe a few $100 million to develop a new camera. You know what? It's bad. It's going to be frustrating. It's a loss that they didn't protect that competitive advantage. You might say, Pete, patents are the most important piece of intellectual property. You must protect the inventions with patents. Well, what happens if Apple forgets to protect their trademarks? So in trademarks in the US, you have to renew them every 10 years. As long as you use it, you can keep renewing it. What happens if Apple forgets to renew their trademark?
Wow.
And someone else steals it? What's the value of Apple's trademark to their company? It's not just on that one smartphone, it's on all their phones, all their computers, every product they have has the Apple logo. So in this case, the trademark is actually the most important competitive advantage to Apple. It's not a patent, it's not computer code, it's that brand that over years they have been developing.
After a certain amount of time, Pete, doesn't it kind of get recognition or something that really nobody can file, whether they continue to file or not?
Yeah, I mean, there are types of famous marks where over time around the world you can build up just this brand recognition. But there are many cases in countries where if you don't register or don't file in time, that you can lose it. And so if that brand is actually the most important part of your company, maybe that's where you put that investment into protecting.
Understood. You know what, also, Pete, there's so many different perspectives on intellectual property out there. And for us as independent inventors, maybe we're further along and we're businesses that are listening or watching this. If you have a chance to get some intellectual property protection to give you that competitive advantage, in a way, it kind of opens the door for more opportunity to be able to have that amount of time to almost monopolize the market with your intellectual property. And also, if you are looking to license it, if you're going to have a patent, most of the time it needs to be issued. It can also be pending, depending on the company. But you're giving that company a competitive advantage with your intellectual property. If you don't have any, then what do they need you for? They could do it themselves.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, Brian, absolutely. And even to a similar point with that, I mean, think about if you are company A and company B who are going to a potential investor, and the investor, the competitive advantage of the investor is to actually have intellectual property rights, assets. And let's say company A spends $20,000 on getting 2 patents, whereas company B spends $5,000 getting 3 or 4 trademarks, 5 or 6 copyrights, and a bunch of trade secrets where there's no money involved into it. They come to that same investor. Company A has 2 assets. Company B has 15 assets. The competitive advantage there could be more assets that have protection through intellectual property, and then investor might be more willing to go for company B because they've protected all their different types of competitive advantage in a more strategic way. So things like that can be how you prioritize what IP, what competitive advantage to protect. So identify, prioritize. Step 3, protect. So think about that most important piece of intellectual property. There could be different ways to protect it. That you want in maybe multiple ways to protect. One speaker early on talked about design patents. So if that engine, for example, maybe had a great design on it, you could protect it that way, plus the trade secret, plus the branding. Multiple ways to protect that one competitive advantage. Other least important ones, maybe you do a defensive publishing. a way to stop other people from getting patent protection. Or you just might know, I'm going to risk it, but it's a business decision because it's a low important IP. For example, you design a graphic for your website. You don't spend the time to get a copyright on that design. Someone steals it, copies it. Well, what's the cost to create a new design for that website? Probably not that much. So probably low important IP. Put the money in something more important. So you have your different tiers: high important, medium important, low important. You put different levels of investment of how to protect these competitive advantages. And then the last step, priorities change, competitive advantage change. Make sure you're routinely reevaluating the priorities of all your competitive advantages. Make sure that maybe this year it's really the invention, but as your brand develops, maybe that branding becomes more important. And so reevaluating what's the most important competitive advantage and figure out new ways to protect it with intellectual property.
Look, Pete, many of us as inventors, when we're coming up with an idea, we're not sure 100% yet. Maybe we're dabbling, we make a prototype, we file a provisional patent application, and then we kind of test the market to see if it's something that we should move forward with or not. And then we explore our options. Is it something that's patentable or not? And if so, we have the option potentially of manufacturing or licensing to earn royalties. So what's your take on provisional patent applications? Where is that in these tiers? I mean, it's a start, but many inventors think that it's actually a patent. It's just a filing date. But what's your take on that? Because a lot of us do start off with a provisional patent application.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think it's a really great tool that actually puts the U.S. ahead of a lot of other countries when it provides a cheaper way to at least get your foot in the door. One of the things that we do see is that, I mean, whatever you put in that provisional application, if you want to get a non-provisional afterwards, like the real application, that same information has to be in there. So if you just leave out a lot of stuff in the original filing, you're gonna have to go back and file a new application with all the new info. So making sure that first application has all the info you want to protect is so important.
And keep it broad.
Yep. But again, put as much detail as you want in it. But again, it's a great way. Again, if your competitive advantage at the time of filing that is simply this invention, you have nothing else, this is a great way to give yourself 12 months before you file a non-provisional, and then the actual patent process will start.
Great.
So that's, yeah, great point, Brian. Again, it's a good way, it's a cheap way to at least give yourself an extra year before getting into the real process. So the last part is, again, you can do this. It's a very simple process. The identify, prioritize, protect. You can make a template out of it. You can take it to your company. If you're advising other people, you can help them do the same process. Again, you're simply listing all of your competitive advantages, prioritizing them, and then you don't need to know how to protect them themselves. But when you go to see your patent attorney, your IP attorney, your trademark attorney, you tell them these are the most important competitive advantages. They won't know. They don't know what your business is. They don't know what's important to you. They don't know, if I lose this competitive advantage, my 45 employees have to fire them. They know, oh, this is an invention, patent. This is a brand, trademark. It'll be your job to tell them, these are my most important ones. Please protect them extra. And then these less important ones, we don't need to waste money on those. So they'll do the protection part. You'll do the business side of it part.
Pete, usually when somebody comes to me with an idea, or the audience out there, when you're working with an idea, it's really important for you to know your competitors. So you came up with this idea, and this is what Pete's point is here. You come up with an idea. What's making your idea different than the other ones that are out there? What competitive advantage are you going to have in the market compared to the other products out there that are similar? And that's where you have some options of either licensing or manufacturing. But it's really important for you to know what's going to make yours different when you're pitching somebody, whether it's on a package design, or if it's a sell sheet, or if it's a pitch to a potential licensee. Why should they do business with you, or why should they rent the rights to your intellectual property? Well, this is what you tell them, that your IP is going to give them this competitive advantage in the market.
Perfect, Brian. I mean, it's a kind of great way to sum it up. And then to my last slide, very quickly, again, everything I've talked about before relates to domestic markets, but also overseas market. Here's the picture that Brian was mentioning with me and my IP attaché vest.
We love that.
Overseas. But the US government has some great free resources when it comes to helping US companies take their businesses abroad. We have the US IP attaché program. So I was one of the IP attachés. There's 13 of them around the world. And it's a free resource. Their emails are on the website, uspto.gov, search IP attachés. Their job is to talk with companies of all sizes. What's the landscape? What are you seeing? There's other different websites at USPTO about IP in China, UK, other places. And then the other place I want to mention is the US Department of Commerce. They have their stopfakes.gov website. That's a good place for some IP toolkits based on different industries, but also on countries. And then finally, the US Foreign Commercial Service. There are commerce officials in most of our embassies and consulates around the world. They are just incredible resources for you to reach out to about doing business in those markets. They oftentimes work directly with the IP attachés, give you a full business perspective. So just some of the resources in the US government for taking your businesses overseas.
That's
and then Brian, we have time for the last story.
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, so the last story was I had a US aftermarket auto company that made these really beautiful exhaust systems come out to the Middle East. And unfortunately, I was not able to talk to them before they came out. And so when they came out, they actually didn't have IP protection. And so I was talking with them a bit. And I was like, oh, so just tell me about your business. And like, oh, like we make these beautiful exhaust systems. It's the same technology, been around for a long time, but we use like really high quality products. They last a long time, but we also make these super cool designs of the exhaust system. So they're just beautiful. And so when you put them in your car, it's a work of art. And so they were out here in the Middle East for a trade show. And oftentimes the IP attachés work with US companies at trade shows, making sure they know the landscape. So I come back next day and they kind of like come up to me very quickly. I was like, Pete, there's a exhibit about 4 or 5 tables down from us that's copying our exhaust systems, like verbatim, like it copied everything. And so I'm like, okay, like let's go. So we stealthily walk over and we're looking around and taking pictures, not really covertly, but like of the other company's products. And yeah, they had just ripped off the US company's like beautiful designs. We had one of our other contacts go and like take a look at them, and the workmanship in that product was just so bad. Like the materials were awful, and so like people be confused if this exhaust system was put into a car thinking that it was the US company's product. And so one thing about IP rights is they're territorial. So that company had a US patent, a US trademark. They had a US design patent on the look and feel of it. But when they went to the Middle East, in the country we're in, they had not gone out and registered for protection. And so in that country, those US IP rights, meaningless. One type of intellectual property right that is very interesting is copyrights. So when you create a creative work, you get protection for that work the second you put it into a tangible means. So if this company, they wrote this beautiful like manual of how to use the exhaust, how to install the exhaust system. And once you do that, you actually have copyright protection in all countries that are members of it's called the Berne Convention Treaty, which is almost every country in the world, including this country that they were in. And so it turned out that these counterfeiters had actually copied everything, including their instruction manuals. And so because we were able to demonstrate to that local government that the copyright rights protected them in this country, we were able to get the exhibitors to throw out the infringing people. But again, because we went through that whole system of what's your competitive advantage, what is every single piece, we identified every piece of a competitive advantage they had, including that instruction manual. One of those competitive advantages finally was able to get the infringer to go away.
Wow.
So I'm saying you have to identify every single piece of competitive advantage you have, because you might not know when that piece will actually come to play that can help you out. So in this case, it wasn't the patent, wasn't the brand, wasn't the design. It was that little instruction manual that they had developed.
Oh, and we shared that IP identifier tool from the US Patent and Trademark Office that you can actually see between all the things that are going on in your business. Because when you're coming up with an idea, it's a business. Find those things that are protected or that you could build your intellectual property or IP protection. Another kind of tactic that I learned from a patent attorney is to file a technical drawing copyright. And if you're saying that, and I didn't realize that you're protected in all these other countries from this copyright, to have a technical drawing of your patent or your product could be, not necessarily patent, I said, but of your drawing of your product could be something that you may be able to get a copyright from or of. But please, I'm not a patent attorney or agent. I'm not sharing that. It's just from what I've heard, you can do your own due diligence and make your own decision. But that's really interesting. It's great to know that we have those protections out there. And as inexpensively as a copyright is, and I think a copyright's less than $100. So that's some great information. If it's okay, Pete, thank you so much for all this. We have a couple questions. Let's see if we can have what's better, having a product or having recognition? In a world where attention gets you paid, how can you get to where your brand product gets recognition?
It's a great question. I mean, I think it starts from the product itself. I mean, what makes that product competitive? I think there's definitely, the branding is great, but if you can't tell the consumer why that product is going to make their life easier, faster, more cheaply in doing certain things, the brand might not matter. However, I mean, I have seen, I'm sure you've also like crazy fun brands like, whoa, what is that product? And then you want to take a look at it. But again, if that product is not providing some type of competitive advantage, then just because it's a cool brand, maybe I won't buy it. I mean, that could be a really cool brand on a very cheap product. It's like, okay, I might buy a cheap product with a cool brand because I love the brand. But think about what will drive the market based on your products. And I think then over time, the brand becomes the market. The brand becomes the identifier. When someone sees that brand, especially now you've been in the market for 2-3 years, you see the brand like, oh yeah, their shirts, super soft. Or their cleaning products, they're magic in a dishwasher. But then over time, you keep building those products and develop it. But again, that brand is what brings people to the product. But again, I think you have to start off with what's your product about? Why is it going to be exciting? And then develop that brand structure from there.
Wow, good stuff. So Pete, great information. I'm honored to have you on National Inventor Club. I know the audience very much appreciates your stories that you share, and just for us to do due diligence to see how much intellectual property protection we can actually get around our product, which many of us start, or it could be another form of intellectual property, but to be able to wear and build up, to have not only the competitive advantage, but build assets, whether sell one day or just for themselves, to be able to get that recognition, like one of the audience members mentioned, is really important. So thank you so much for this.
Pleasure, Brian. Again, working with you and working with inventors, again, it's one of my favorite things to do. So anytime that we can help you, please let us know. Thank you.
Thank you. One last thing, Pete. So there are inventors at all stages of their inventions here. Some have the idea in their head. Some are further along the way. What are some final words of wisdom that you can give to the audience to keep their ideas and themselves moving forward?
Yeah, I'd say, I mean, one, it's never too early to protect your IP. I think it's, I mean, you might say, Pete, I'm like still in the workshop, still in my garage developing this new invention, but you might spend 4 to 5 years on it. And then you might have done something in the past. You might have published it somewhere. You might have told too many people, or once you start going out and sort of marketing it, you've not protected it correctly, or you've not understood how easy can it be copied, or if it can be copied, really, it's not, you can't copy it, but it's really difficult to produce. Like, is that going to be marketable? So think about your competitive advantage early, and then making sure that you're protecting it through different ways along the way. I mean, I've seen people invest years, hundreds of thousands of dollars in a concept and invention, and they don't put any thought into protecting it. And they start then marketing it, and it's gone. And those 5 years that investment has been. But if you start early, you have a much better chance of protecting yourself through that process. And we know that process is dynamic. It could change overnight when someone reaches out to you. Make sure that you're protected so there's not a surprise later on of, oh crap, like I didn't actually protect what's actually going to be developed and marketed and licensed later on.
Thank you so much, Pete. We will keep in touch, and thank you for your support with our audience at National Inventor Club, and we will see you again soon. Thank you very much for joining us this evening.
Thanks, Brian. Thanks, all.
Thank you. And we'll see you in the after meeting.
Absolutely.
Excellent. All right. Well, that wraps up another month of the National Inventor Club. We have some great events that are happening, and you can continue to be a part of them. You can go to the Inventor Smart Community app on Google Play or the Apple App Store. We have a long list of events, and thanks to Andy and Samantha and Sean and all the active engagers that are in the app, thank you so much for making all of this possible and having these amazing guest speakers that we've had this evening from SCORE, from Fiverr, PICFU, Patent Professor, Small Business Development Center, I mean, US Patent and Trademark Office. Look at all the information that you get. All you need to do is be a part of it and keep in touch, and we appreciate you. So let's continue this conversation in the Zoom after meeting networking. And then after that, if you can't make it, that's fine. If you can, that's great. But you can join us in the Inventor Smart Community app. Thank you so much, and keep making your inventions a reality. Keep moving forward, and we're here to help you. We'll see you again soon. Thank you so much.